Guys doing out there today? This is your boy Roto Beast. I'm here with my boy Jeremy. We're here to present you our MLB On Deck segment for Tuesday, July 16th. If you're new to the channel, please make sure and click the subscribe button below. This way you can watch all of our MLB, NBA, and NFL videos. If you haven't came and checked out our website here at dfscheatsheet.com, you're absolutely missing out. We have all the tools to help you compete with the pros day in and day out, including a complete optimizer, tons of content, daily FanDuel, and DraftKings cash lineups. Hey, we're truly a one-stop shop for all your DFS needs. So make sure to come check out the site here at DFS Cheat. So hey, what up, Jeremy? How you doing out there, bro?
What's up, man?
Hey, man, another day. Be honest with you, yesterday, and we should have known. They busted on us a little bit in Coors Field, but it was the second inning of a doubleheader. That the first game it was very hot. They were all drained. They put up a bunch of runs, and yeah, it didn't work out so well last night. But Coors Field is back on the slate, and probably going to go back to that. It's like it's DFS, new day, move on, new scenarios. How'd you do last night?
I did okay. Not great. I had some good lines, had some okay lines, and then had some absolute just Coors Field lines that were terrible. So that's the risk you take. It's a risk reward place. If you're a tournament player, you can't really fade Coors Field on any night. So it's just about trying to get as much exposure to Coors Field with everybody else. Nailed the Dodgers though, man. I mean,
hey,
look,
I told you, I was like, bro, I loved him yesterday.
Yeah, but the thing is that you can't not look at all of Philadelphia's pitching staff. Their entire rotation struggles against left-handed bats. They all have ISOs over 200 against left-handed bats.
Right.
With the exception of Velasquez, who's pitching today, and I believe his ISO is 188 versus left-handed bats. So
I'll be honest with you. I'll go right back to the well against Velasquez tonight.
Well, that's kind of what I was going to touch on. We can get into that when you get through your teams. But Velasquez is a guy who, I mean, this guy, he's really competing for the fifth spot in that rotation. He's been sent down. He's come back for a spot start. He pitched against Miami. I mean, he hasn't pitched against a team of the caliber of the Dodgers. So, yeah, his ISO numbers are down a little bit. He has a ton of strikeout upside, but this ain't the day.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely agree with you there. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm ready just to kind of real quick. So, I mean, if you want to switch it up a little bit today, you could talk about pitchers and then we can run out bats.
To me, right now, I mean, look, from a pitching standpoint, it's pretty straightforward, right? I mean, there's a couple of guys that are lower priced that you could definitely look at. And I'll start with Daniel Megden, right? Megden, it's not a sexy name. It's not a guy that, Daniel Megden, let me load Daniel Megden up. But with Coors Field on the slate, you're going to have to get exposure to guys in other spots. And you talk about Daniel Megden, who's 4-1. He's pitched against Seattle. At a $7,100 price tag on FanDuel, it allows you to fit really anybody you want, right? You can get both sides of Coors Field. You can get Dodger exposure. You can get really expensive bats to go with him. A guy I'll talk about on the deep dive to figure out if he's usable or not is going to be Dylan Cease. So, that's a guy that we'll break down. Glenn Sparkman at 5,700 is a guy who's been lit up all year long. It's a guy we've targeted against, and he goes for Kansas City today. You look, Ryan Carpenter's on this slate. You got to like Cleveland. Asher Wojciechowski on this slate. You got to like Baltimore. I mean, you got to like Washington. So you've got Framber Valdez who's been okay this year, and he's going against Anaheim, who's got a right-handed heavy lineup. We'll have to see if Mike Trout plays or doesn't play today, dealing with some soreness. But look, there's a whole bunch of really good spots today, and Coors Field on the slate. So the most expensive pitchers on the slate, those are really the guys who are in the safest spots, right? You talk about Walker Buehler at 10,000. You talk about Lance Lynn. He's up to 9,800. Brandon Woodruff. This guy throws 96, 97 for the majority of the innings he throws. Goes deep into games with the exception of a hiccup at Pittsburgh this year. This guy's been really, really good. Jordan Yamamoto with a plus matchup against San Diego. Yes, San Diego has some matchers. Franmil Reyes and Manny Machado. Fernando Tatis Jr. They've got some guys who can do some things, but over a 27% K percentage against right-handed pitching. So Yamamoto's been really good. He's a good young arm for these guys. He's in a decent matchup today, but all these guys are high priced. So where's the value at? You're going to have to figure out with bats where the value's at. Detroit is a team that I don't know if you have them. I stacked them last night just because of their price tags. That's a team I think you could probably go back to the well today. They've already lit Plesac up once this year. CC Sabathia, I'm not going to use CC Sabathia. There's so many pitchers on this slate. 243 ISO versus right-handed bats. Wojciechowski, I talked about, 273 versus left-handed bats, 263 versus right-handed bats. Logan Allen, a 333 ISO against him versus right-handed bats. It's a Miami lineup that's got a ton of right-handed bats in it, and I think could be pretty sneaky today going against Logan Allen. Carpenter going against Cleveland, 333 versus left-handed bats, 258 versus right-handed bats. Plesac, 217 versus lefties, 250 versus righties. DeScalfini, 282 versus left-handed bats. Wilson going for the Braves, 375 versus left-handed bats, 219 versus right-handed bats. So, there's a ton of guys in this lower end that have the opportunity to get lit up. And I know that I've said this in the past. I do think when Coors Field is on the slate, you have to get exposure to it. But there's not a lot of good pitchers on the slate again today. It's a lot like yesterday. Yesterday, we loved Luis Castillo, 49 fantasy points. Gave up 3 runs, got a quality start. Take 49 all day long out of Luis Castillo. Clayton Kershaw did exactly what we thought he would do, right? Limit hard contact, put the ball in play, low pitch count, not a ton of strikeout upside with Kershaw, but he gets through a game, gets a quality start. So the pitching on this slate is a lot like yesterday, but there's not any sexy names. Walker Buehler's in play. Lance Lynn is in play. Brandon Woodruff's in play. Yamamoto's in play. I even think Andrew Casher's in play against the Blue Jays. A pretty heavy right-handed lineup. And Casher's a guy that he's right at a 200 ISO against right-handed bats, and we've seen him dominate Toronto already this year. So making a start for his new team, I think Cashner is in play as a good value play at 8,000. But that's kind of it, man. You start going down the list of pitchers today and try to figure out where the value's at. I mentioned yesterday that you've got to figure out who the team you're going to get that's got the value bats to allow you to get the bigger bats in your lineup. And, yesterday, like I said, Detroit, the Chicago White Sox, those are all teams that had lower salary. The Giants were really underpriced. They just didn't perform yesterday in the second half of that doubleheader. So, the Giants still have fair price tags. That's a team I'm sure you're going to cover. But two teams that I'm going to throw in the mix based off pitching is I definitely think you can give Miami a look today going against Logan Allen. I definitely think Washington should be a popular team. I'm sure they have a high implied run total. I haven't looked at them.
You take them on teams, bro.
Yeah, I'm sure. I haven't looked at implied run total. So, pitching's ugly. It's really, really ugly.
I agree. There's so many good bats. I'll kind of jump into the bats, and then if I miss any teams that you're still looking at, feel free to jump in and kind of throw those teams in there as well. Like you said, 15 games, 30 teams. There's some definitely good spots.
Every team in play today, all 30.
Yeah, no, I'll start with the main event, man. You got Coors Field on the slate. You got the Rockies. You got the Giants. I mentioned it at the very beginning of the video. I feel like, yesterday it was the second inning of a back-to-back, and that was one of the reasons that game kind of underperformed compared to what we expected. And, it makes sense, but at the same time, if that game would have went off, even though if it was the second inning of a back-to-back, I wouldn't have been surprised. I'm going to go right back to the well, start with Colorado. You got a 7.5 implied run total. They get a matchup today against Drew Pomeranz. It's going to be hot in Colorado. Pomeranz gives up a 42% hard contact rate, 123 ISO versus lefties, 232 ISO versus righties. Colorado has some guys that definitely hit they hit lefties very well. You're looking at Trevor Story, Arenado. Those are the obvious guys that stand out. You can still go with some of the lefties as well. You can go with a Charlie Blackmon, go with the David Dahl, throwing to Ian Desmond. He's kind of working his way up in the lineup, starting to get a little bit hot. Definitely think that he's in play. You can look at basically everybody for Colorado that's in the lineup. On the flip side of things, the Giants are still coming in at a very fair price tag. Most of them at least. And, they get a matchup today against Peter Lambert, gives up a 37% hard contact rate, 173 ISO to lefties, 275 ISO to righties. It's basically if they're in the lineup, then you can play them, and that's really where it's at with the Giants. I will mention Brandon Crawford. Yesterday had a crazy good day, really starting to swing a good bat. Throwing Buster Posey, Brandon Belt, Sandoval. Dickerson's a guy that we've seen in the past. That guy could definitely hit the ball very well. A bunch of these guys are in play on both sides. We got to just kind of see how the lineup shake out, etc. Outside of Coors Field, which is the obvious spot, I'll move on to, you mentioned them. I like Washington as well, just like you like Washington. Baltimore is a stadium that's been given a bunch of runs up all season long. We've been liking targeting teams in that spot. And then Washington gets a matchup against Asher Wojnarowski, 45% hard contact. Wojciechowski, 45% hard contact rate, 273 ISO to lefties, 263 ISO to righties. I mean, you can legitimately look at 1 through 7 for Nationals. I mean, you got Brian Dozier batting number 7. You got a pretty decent lineup. Trey Turner, Eaton, Rendon, Soto, Adams. He's a guy that he's boom or bust. But I don't know, man, it's crazy because I've played Adams 3 or 4 times this year, and I've got him right basically every time. He's a guy that when he gets the opportunity, he definitely can he hits the ball hard, and he gives you a little bit of upside. I like the Nationals a lot. I think they are a really good team. I'm gonna go right back to the well with Cleveland. Mentioned them yesterday. They did pretty good. They get a matchup today against Brian Carpenter. Gives up a 44% hard contact rate, 333 ISO to lefties, 258 ISO to righties. You can look at guys on both sides of the plate. Lindor, Santana, Ramirez, a little disappointed a little bit yesterday, but as long as he's batting in that cleanup spot at a very fair price tag, I'm going to continue going to that well. Kipnis is in play also. I like these Cleveland bats. I think they're in a good spot against Brian Carpenter. Then I'm going to go to Boston. The Red Sox. We talked about them a little bit yesterday. I feel like they're starting to pick it up a little bit. Got a bunch of all-stars in this lineup. I mean, they get a matchup against Jacob Waguespack. Did I say it? Waguespack? Waguespack, yeah. So this guy, small sample size, gives up a 32% hard contact rate, 0.00 ISO to lefties, 333 ISO to righties. Like I said, small sample size. I like the defending champs. They got a really good lineup. I'm basically looking at 1 through 6, 1 through 7. Guys standing out. You got Betts, you got Devers, all-star snub, Bogarts, JD Martinez. Benintendi, he was a guy I mentioned yesterday, and he had a really, really good day. He's been slumping a little bit, but he's showing a little bit of life of kind of coming back to his own. And then Brock Holtz, Chavis, I think those are guys that you can get low owned, kind of complete your stack if you want to go that route. We mentioned quickly. I'll just mention the Dodgers. We talked about them a little bit already. Dodgers, whenever you're going against a right-handed pitcher with the Dodgers, even when it's usually the better ones, you still could go with the Dodgers as GPP plays. I think today with the matchup against Velasquez, I think you can consider a couple of Dodgers in cash as well. I love the Dodgers anytime they're going to roll out their hard lefty lineup. You look at the obvious guys, Bellinger, Jock Peterson will be in play, Verdugo, Muncy, Seager's coming back, AJ Pollock is swinging a good bat right now since coming back for injury. So Dodgers are definitely in play. And lastly, I'll just quickly mention, and this could kind of go either way. We always talk about it. I like the Texas Rangers at home. It's hot in Texas. The balls are going to be flying. Very, very good hitting park. Gave up the most runs last year in the majors. The Rangers get a matchup today against Alex Young. The guy's making his debut. We mentioned it. When somebody's making their debut, it could go either way. Either they can get blown up, not used to major league hitters, or they could come out and surprise a bunch of people. I just think Texas is a team that it's not going to be on anybody's radar that you could possibly look as just a low-owned stack to kind of fit some other stuff in on this slate. But yeah, man, that's kind of where I'm at with bats. I definitely think that there is a bunch of bats that you could look at. Did I miss anybody else that you had in mind?
Let me just say a couple things about the Rockies. All right, the Dodgers are running away with the West, right? Seven. I mean, I believe between the Rockies and Giants, it's 17 games. Okay, nobody's going to catch the Dodgers.
Right.
You've got every single team in the West within 3 games of the wild card spot. And that's what this is going to be about, right? So this wild card thing has given everybody all kinds of hope. Washington is +2 for the first wild card spot. And then you've got St. Louis and Philadelphia tied for the second spot. And then right behind them, Milwaukee's a half game out. Arizona's a game out. Colorado's 2 games out. The Padres 2.5 games out. And the Giants are 3 games out, right? Take a look at what Colorado has going today, okay? The Giants, they're hot. We know that. They've won 11 of 14. They're hot. The Giants, we talked about yesterday with the bullpen situation. In game 1, it was going to be very important to see what happened. Well, yesterday, Colorado's bullpen threw 9 1/3 innings pitched. They start Peter Lambert today. Lambert's given up 22 earned runs over 29 2/3 innings pitched in his major league season this year so far. So this guy's been hit hard. He's only pitched into the 5th inning. He hasn't pitched any further than that. You're looking at least 4 more innings out of the bullpen if Lambert goes 5 and doesn't give anything up or get lit up, right? So I don't like Colorado in this spot because you look at the Rockies over the 2 games yesterday, they struck out 23 times, and that was against Samardzija and Rodriguez. These guys are not good. Colorado's not playing well. Yeah, they did okay against Cincinnati. A lot of runs got scored in that series, but Colorado, they're not playing great baseball. They're not playing great baseball. And you've got Drew Pomeranz today. I know he's 5,500. I'm not telling you to go out and use Pomeranz, but the Giants have all of their relievers. They only had to use Murata for an inning. This guy can throw back-to-back days, no problem. They only used Watson for an inning. They didn't use Derek Holland. They didn't use Mark Melancon. Holland coming out of the bullpen has seen his velocity increase to 96, 97. So, you're talking about a guy who was a starter who was throwing 92 at best. Now he's throwing 96, 97 coming out of the pen. I don't like Colorado that much today. I just don't. I think that sometimes you run into a buzzsaw. That's what the Giants are right now until they cool off. I just don't think that it's set up real well for Colorado. I think that you got Peter Lambert throwing. Their bullpen is taxed. A doubleheader can absolutely ruin you for a week and a half until you can get a start from somebody to give that bullpen some relief. The Giants basically sent down 2 of the guys yesterday that they used in the first game. They used AAA guys, and they blew that game. They blew the doors off of them. So I'm not real big on Colorado today on this slate. I think there's other teams that are in better spots across the board than Colorado is. You talked about the Dodgers. You talked about did you talk about Tampa Bay at all?
I didn't mention Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay is a team I like a lot. You talk about Sabathia, 243 ISO versus right-handed pitching. Austin Meadows, a guy I talked about, is a left-handed bat that I think people stay away from because he's a lefty on lefty. But, Austin Meadows, very high ISO, over 200 against left-handed pitching this year. I just think there's a ton of really good spots on a 15-game slate. For me, my exposure in Coors Field is going to be targeted more towards the Giants. And that's not because I'm a Giants fan. That's because 9 1/3 innings pitched yesterday out of their bullpen. They've got to come right back today with a guy who's been lit up all year long, and they're going to have to get innings out of that bullpen again. The Giants, yes, they're throwing Pomeranz, but one of the things I talk about all the time is if you're looking for a pitcher, when we're looking at pitchers, we want to look at guys that give us the opportunity to do a couple things. Go at least 5 innings to qualify for a win, pitch into the 6th to qualify for a quality start, and strike out upside. On the flip side of that, when we're targeting bats against a pitcher, looking at the opposing team's bullpen is very significant because, yes, you can get – if you're going to go one time to the lineup and score 7 runs, that's great. But your stack is dead if it's going to go against one of the top bullpens in baseball. Now you got to go 3 times through the order against one of the top 10 teams from a bullpen standpoint. You want to make sure that you target a bad pitcher who's got a bad bullpen, like Washington. Washington, it's okay to target their starters because if you're going to get 5 innings against their terrible bullpen, or Baltimore, bad starter, bad bullpen, use Washington today. So I don't like Colorado that much. I like the Giants. I think there's other teams in better spots. I like the Rays quite a bit. I do like Detroit, and I do like Miami.
Yeah, for sure. Big slate, a lot of spots that you could definitely go to. Make sure to tune into the deep dive. Jeremy will kind of break down some of those teams that people are probably not going to be on today, but have really, really good matchups. I'll also be back with my MLB core plays for the day. 5 people that I think should be in all your cash lineups. So make sure to check out the site, dfscheatsheet.com. And hey, outside of that, good luck on your guys' contest tonight, and peace out.